Hello, everyone. We are studying another session here of SCT Experience Academy. I'm Tiago Abreu, and I'm here with Anil Jain, Managing Director of Media Entertainment Industry Solutions. First off, thank you very much for collaborating with the SCT community, and I hope you and your beloved ones are doing well. So how are you holding on?
Thanks, Tiago. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm very excited to be here and collaborating with you.
So starting with a little bit of context, Anil, accelerated technology advances in consumer behavior are driving transformation in the whole M&E industry, right? So the entry of agile software-based OTT competitors into the video delivery industry is demanding immediate responses for broadcasters to keep pace with this change or risk getting left behind. By deploying cloud-based services, media companies can dramatically reduce time to market for their services, thus increasing revenues and flexibly adjust resources by moving to a consumption-based pricing, right? So looking for the bright side, it's definitely the right moment for cloud providers to seize these opportunity. How cloud providers are preparing themselves to embrace M&E industry?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I agree with the premise and the context you set, Tiago. The reality is I think you'll agree, the entire media and entertainment industry is in a period of significant transition. And this transition didn't start yesterday. It's been going on for some time. And the ultimate driving force is the shift to a direct-to-consumer paradigm, right? Where every media company across the value chain, from producers of content to packagers and programmers to distributors of content, are all thinking about how do they form a better relationship directly with their consumers and respond in an agile, flexible fashion to provide the best experience around the content, and in fact to also create new products and services. So as we think about that, you're absolutely right that the pandemic has been an accelerant of all of the agendas that media companies have around the world to embrace virtualization of technologies. And I think it is not a simple lift and shift. In fact, what media companies should be aligning on from the board level down is what is the future of the experience they want to provide their audiences? How do they design a strategy, both a business strategy and a technology and operational architecture to support that strategy as they transition to cloud? Cloud is not just about virtualizing infrastructure. It is about the fact that when you have access to such vast and powerful infrastructure, you can actually introduce new capabilities and new ways of doing business. We can get into a lot of the details. Cloud providers, such as Google Cloud, we are engaging with the media industry in a few different ways. Not really just presenting infrastructure, right, and platform products to the industry, because fundamentally, media companies don't want to just buy infrastructure. They're trying to solve real business problems. So we think about it from the standpoint of solutions. What are the industry-focused solutions that we actually need to put together between Google Cloud, an ecosystem of partners, and the media organization together? Because we have to work collectively in concert to actually help transition the existing operations to cloud native operations. Secondly, I think we should look at the next generation of media is all about being data-driven, right? Fundamentally, using the data from users, the data about content, the data about network and platforms together holistically in a way that allows us to deliver the optimal content and the optimal experience and the optimal monetization to a consumer. So everything should be data-driven. And then the last thing I'll say as a pillar is really, and this applies across production and distribution, is how do you leverage next generation technologies? And I know we'll talk about some of those, I think, today, such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, cloud-based capabilities to bear on how you actually run a media business, whether that's taking insights and creating automation and allowing creative workers within the organization to do more creative work and less managing infrastructure, or whether that is to bring more intelligence to the overall system in terms of how you make sure that the content for Tiago is in fact a personalized experience designed for Tiago. right? So I think there's a lot to be done there, and you're absolutely right. It's not about lift and shift. It's about transformation.
Closer look into media value chain from acquisition to distribution today, we can notice a different level of maturity among processes and capabilities running on the cloud. So if a media company wants to give it the initial steps towards the cloud, from where it should start, what kind of services are available right now?
The question of where should a media company start, I think, is highly dependent on the current maturity and state and situation of the media company. Just for example, in the United States, we have several large media organizations that have merged together. And so for them, part of the mergers and acquisitions and the consolidation means that they have to reduce costs very significantly because they have, 2 or 3 times the infrastructure they need, and they need to consolidate. And that brings with it cost synergies as well as efficiencies. So for them, there's a lot of work to be done in migrating archives of content, streamlining processes on one set of media applications running across the media value chain. So that's where they would start. For others, they have an opportunity with some greenfield new businesses to either embrace the virtualization of content production everywhere from everything from going direct from camera to cloud, and then using cloud-based capabilities through a remote desktop to actually do production and post-production and VFX and rendering, as you mentioned earlier, due to COVID is now. And then others are really focused on addressing the growing demand from consumers to consume content on multiple platforms over the top. Probably the easiest place, I think, for many media companies to start, because it's not about necessarily leveraging existing infrastructure, but more about implementing a cloud-based video streaming and application framework to deliver over-the-top direct-to-consumer experiences. So all of those are available today in terms of capability. And I think the real question is, where is the media company at today in terms of their life cycle, their priorities? Depending on where they're starting, what partners do they work with that run specific media applications? Because a lot of times it is not about the readiness of the cloud provider or the media company. It's about the readiness of those software vendors that provide specialized capabilities. And not all of them have actually transitioned to the cloud yet.
Media companies often seek a balance between robust architectures and business SLAs. How should the pace of this migration be in your vision?
So I think this is a very, very important point, right? I think, when we work with broadcasters, something a broadcaster told me many, many years ago is that, 5 seconds of black on air is catastrophic. Right? You cannot let that happen. But when you think about the internet-based delivery, there are service outages, there are things that have happened. Those things were not equal. Now, however, as we have truly, embraced the convergence of broadcast and OTT, and this is the future that we're all moving into, you need to have the performance that is expected by consumers. No buffering, fast time to playback, low latency, high quality delivery. All of these things are key, and the consumers and the audiences are actually pulling the media organizations and the technology providers forward with these requirements. So when it comes down to should you kind of pick the best partner or embrace multi-cloud, I would say that the requirements of what you're trying to deliver to consumers and to your audience comes first and foremost. And what should be key is the cloud provider a partner that is actually working to, hand in hand with the media organization to put the right metrics in place to serve those audiences with the performance expected, especially from a Google perspective. We believe that the world will inevitably be multi-cloud, redundancy built in, or certain capabilities should be able to work more flexibly across clouds. And from a Google Cloud perspective, this is something we've embraced. Last year we announced a multi-cloud platform called Anthos that essentially allows organizations to write, once their application and have it operate.
A statement where I would like to hear from Anil that no matter what is the architecture that is decided by the media company, whether it's a primary solution on the cloud is adoption or a hybrid architecture, or if it's a single cloud provider or multi-cloud adoption. I think that this flexibility, it's important for the broadcaster or whatever is the media company to make the decision that it's better fit to their business, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think flexibility is, in fact, one of the key characteristics you're trying to achieve when you embrace the cloud, right? And that flexibility and agility, right, is important. So flexibility because you're not tied down, right, to large capex investments or hardware and infrastructure that is on premise that precludes you from making changes, right? And agility because now that consumers have the power, right, to actually very easily switch and choose where they're going to spend their time and what content they're going to enjoy on what platform. Agility is important so that media companies have the ability and the power to quickly create new services or change what they're doing in order to meet consumer demand.
What are the biggest challenges for a broadcaster, for a media company on migrating to the cloud on your vision?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really important point, Tiago. I think you said it well, that it's people, process, technology, policy. You know, I mentioned earlier that cloud is not just about a lift and shift of technology. It's about a whole new way of running your business, whole new way of operating, a whole new way of engaging consumers and developing new products. And so you're right that fundamentally there's a lot of change that happens when you make this transition. But probably the biggest challenge from my perspective is that you have organizationally a workforce that has been trained and built up great and tremendous expertise operating in the world as it has been, right? And when you move to this future cloud-enabled world, you're transitioning to more of a model where the future of media is software defined, right? And you need more of a DevOps culture and continuous integration and continuous deployment type models, which you find in kind of native digital first software companies, right? Or digital media companies, but traditional media companies have lots of other expertise. And so that transition is absolutely critical to manage very carefully, because you don't want to lose the expertise of your organization, but you want to help upskill them, right? And help them make the transition. So I think any media company that is moving from more of a traditional model and infrastructure to a cloud-based, whether it's hybrid or multi-cloud or single cloud, that model, that there needs to be very, very focused effort put into helping the workforce embrace new skills and bring their expertise forward into a cloud-based world. And I think that cannot be underemphasized as important.
AI, machine learning, big data, how these technologies can bring a real value for M&E industry.
A lot of these data analytics, big data, AI and ML capabilities were not possible. Now they're possible, and they are influencing every industry in the world. The real question that a lot of us who've been in the industry for a long time have said is, well, show me the practical application. Where is this going to have impact, as opposed to being some gimmick? And the truth is, we're now seeing it. Data analytics, in particular, being able to consolidate multiple disparate sets of data that exist in lots of different systems into one large data lake, and then be able to modernize that in a way that allows for a serverless scale, right? So you're not worried about kind of some of the traditional challenges with large enterprise databases. To be able to do that in the cloud and then extract from it real-time insights as to what's going on allows every organization to provide much greater personalized service to their audiences, and also to do things like proactive monitoring and maintenance, performing, and what the quality of service and the quality of experiences is. You could essentially use machine learning to identify potential failures and proactively address them. Another area, one I think that a lot of people in media have thought about and are doing, or starting to experiment with, and we in fact are doing a lot of work here, is applying machine learning combined with other cloud-based technologies like search to essentially become intelligent about the content. What is in the content? Not just the generic metadata of actors and location and time, but the details. So knowing what your content knows on a frame-by-frame basis, making such rich information available improves search, improves the ability to find content and repurpose that content, enables better storytelling, which then drives better engagement and monetization. And I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see an explosion of these capabilities.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of the topics that I'm most excited is the capability of engaging the end user, not only on the workflow itself and the way that you can find content, but also when you're watching the content and providing a completely different experience. There's also some opportunities that I could add is the capability of give some efficiency on the process to produce content, like automated content generation, assisted editing is another possibility. As you mentioned, automated indexing with face, object action, brand recognition. All these kind of capabilities will help a lot to provide not only engagement but also efficiency on the workflow, right?
And that benefits everyone, even compliance monitoring, right? As content is developed, how do you make sure that it follows the regulations and the requirements of a particular geography or a particular network? If you need to remove things like smoking from clips or frames within a video, how do you do things like that? Or how do you identify and flag, and automatically rate the content based on the language, that is being used, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of interesting applications, and like I said, I think we're seeing many of them emerge now.
I think that the cloud needs to offer ways of tracking, especially in the compliance. I think that there's an important role in that perspective. As we are talking about industry 4.0, 5G technology also expected to be crucial. I think there's a lot of excitement on 5G. It provides a distributed cloud fabric which ensure the performance is not limited by latency concerns, right? Is it possible to have any predictions on M&E industry, for instance?
Everyone has got high expectations on 5G because obviously as you increase or improve dramatically the throughput that people can access and utilize, whether you're a consumer or an enterprise, that opens up lots of interesting things, right? Both in terms of, for example, in media, can I start sending 4K, 8K type content, and bidirectionally, how quickly can I get input back from the user and actually respond to that to provide a more real-time exchange of information that augments your experience. As far as the practical reality of 5G, I think, carriers have been talking about 5G for a long time. Their rollouts are in different geographies actually accelerating, but it's going to take the installation of a lot of these, 5G radios to create that fabric. And then when that happens in any given geography and it's turned on, I think we're going to see suddenly consumer demand that actually drives a change in the consumption pattern. I do think as far as media goes, we look at 5G both from the delivery of these great high quality, high resolution, high bandwidth experiences, and we couple it with edge computing, right? So expand the cloud to the edge so that you bring content and compute and storage closer to the end user. And then you start seeing low latency applications, for gaming and for sports betting and, lots of live streaming. I think on the other end of the value chain, or the supply chain, I should say, actually being able to use 5G to capture content direct from cameras to the cloud, and do so on the ingest side so that you don't introduce too much latency, is going to be another area. And we're already seeing a lot of experimentation in this space. And over time, that latency is going to get shorter and shorter. So I think it's a reality. I think it's something we all have to pay attention to and factor into the future development of our. And what excites me, and I think excites a lot of the media leaders across the ecosystem, is not just what we can solve today, but what is the future of media in terms of 3 years, 4 years out? What are the possibilities that we will unlock that will actually drive a whole new way of engaging with consumers and a whole new set of content experiences? The future has already started, and it has to happen now.
Thank you very much for your participation here with us.
I guess, first of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a fun dialogue. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.